One kid killing the parents is a bad seed. Two kids killing the parents is a bad family.
Yes, I do.
Please take your stand and state your name.
Erik Galen Menendez, Menendez.
Mr. Menendez, you've been in this courtroom since the beginning of pretrial hearings and trial, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Are you aware of the idiosyncrasies of that microphone? If you get too close, it pops. You know that?
Yes.
If
yes.
you get too far away, we don't hear you.
That's right.
Okay. So would you put yourself at a middle distance, if you can? I think you should come in a little closer.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay? All right. Mr. Menendez, where do you live?
Los Angeles County Jail.
And how long have you lived there?
3.5 years.
And during the 3.5 years that you have lived there, on how many occasions have you been in sunshine?
10 times.
Overall.
10 times?
10 times.
And for how long a period on each of those times?
40, 45 minutes.
And what's the last time you were in any sunshine?
4, 5, 6 months ago.
Is that why you're so pale?
Probably.
You're not sick?
No.
You don't
No,
have
I'm
any
not.
skin diseases?
No.
Do you know who Dr. William Vickery is?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And how long have you known him?
Over 3 years, 3.5 years.
And what is he by profession?
He's a psychiatrist.
And is he someone that you've seen regularly while in the jail?
Yes, he's my psychiatrist.
He's your psychiatrist?
Yes.
I think you better come a tiny bit closer. Thank you. And does Dr. Vickery have you under a prescription for some medication currently?
Yes.
And what is the name of the medication?
Xanax.
And what is your understanding of what it's for?
Objection irrelevant. Overall.
So that I can sleep and for my nerves.
Are you a nervous person?
Sometimes.
And how often are you supposed to take the Xanax?
Twice a day.
And are you supposed to take it at night for sleep?
Yes.
Did you take it last night?
Yes.
Did you take it the night before?
The night before, yes.
Now, are you also supposed to take it during the day?
Yes, I am.
Have you not taken it today?
No, I haven't.
And are you planning on taking it during the day so long as you testify?
Yes.
You are?
I'm planning on it, yes.
Do you know if you will?
No.
Do you have some concerns about taking it while you're testifying?
Yes.
And why don't you tell us what those concerns are?
I've been told that when you take Xanax,
Let me ask you something. Does it make you sleepy?
yes.
Are you reluctant to take it when you need to be awake?
Yes.
Were you aware of the fact, Mr. Menendez, that in 1987, 1988, and 1989, your mother took Xanax?
Yes.
Do you know what the dosage is, what the size of the pill is of the Xanax that you're supposed to take?
Yes.
What is it?
0.25?
0.25 milligram?
Yeah.
A quarter of a milligram?
Yes.
And that makes you sleepy?
Yes.
Like that. What's the first day that you resided in the Los Angeles County Jail?
March 11th, or the night of the 10th, or the 11th, 1990.
And was that the day that you were arrested?
Yes.
And where were you arrested?
At the LA airport.
Los Angeles International Airport?
Yes.
And did Detective Zoller arrest you there?
Yes, he did.
And how did you come to be at Los Angeles International Airport?
I flew in from Miami and London.
And where had you started out on that journey?
I was in Israel playing tennis.
And was your coach, Mark Heffernan, in Israel with you?
Yes, he was.
And did you fly from Israel to someplace and then stop?
I flew from Israel to London.
And then from London to?
Miami.
And from Miami to?
LA.
Now, did something happen? Did you hear something in Israel that caused you to make that flight?
Yes, I did.
And what had you heard?
My roommate called me and told me that my brother had been arrested.
And your roommate's name was?
Noel Nedley.
And was Noel Nedley a man?
Yes.
And did Noel tell you, or did you understand what your brother was arrested for?
I think he told me. Yeah.
You knew it was for killing your parents?
Yes.
And when you learned that did you know your brother was charged or being charged or held on a murder charge?
Well, I assumed. I mean, I knew it was for the killing of my parents, so I...
So you knew the charge would be murder?
Yes.
Did you learn before you left Israel that allegations had been filed against your brother of special circumstances that made it a potential death penalty case?
Yes. No, I'm not sure I knew that before I left Israel, but I knew that in London.
You knew at least that was the potential charges?
Oh, yes. Yes, I knew that.
And how soon after hearing that your brother was arrested did you decide to leave Israel and come back to the United States?
Immediately.
And did you expect that when you came back, you would also be arrested?
Yes.
Did you understand there was a warrant out for your arrest?
Yes, I did.
And did you understand you'd be arrested for the same thing your brother was being held on?
Yes.
Did you ever consider during that period of time running away?
No.
Did you consider hiding?
No.
Did you consider fighting extradition from either Israel or England?
No, I didn't want to fight extradition.
Why?
Because I wanted to be back with my brother.
Why?
Objection irrelevant. Sustained.
Mr. Menendez, you've heard the testimony of your brother that you and he killed your parents on August 20th, 1989. Did you not?
Yes, we did.
And what do you believe was the originating cause of you and your brother ultimately winding up shooting your parents?
Me telling.
You telling what?
Me telling Lyle that,
You telling Lyle what? Was it you telling Lyle about something that was happening?
my dad.
Okay.
My dad.
Your Honor, can I ask a leading question?
If you don't ask.
My dad.
Wait 1 second, Mr. Menendez. Okay, let me ask.
No, he was in the process of answering, so there's no need to ask him.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, it was you telling Lyle what?
My dad had been molesting me.
And did you want something from your brother? Is that why you told him?
I wanted to stop.
Were you seeking help from your brother?
Yes.
And when you were in Israel in 1990, did you feel that seeking help from your brother was why your brother was in jail.
Yes.
In the summer of 1989, Mr. Menendez, did you live with your parents, Jose and Mary Louise Menendez?
Yes, I did.
And how old were you?
I was 18 years old.
And had you always lived with your parents your whole life?
Yes.
You had never been sent away to school, boarding school, or anything like that?
No.
Had you on a couple of occasions gone away to camp for a week at a time?
Yes.
Other than that, did you always live with your folks?
Yes, I did.
And in fact, as of that summer of 1989, had you taken all of your vacations with your parents?
Yes.
Had you ever been an exchange student or studied away from the city in which they lived?
No.
During the years 1986, 1987, 1988, were you aware of the fact that your mother was in a noticeable emotional state a lot?
Yes.
Were you aware of the fact that your mother took medication?
Overruled as to that question.
Yeah, I knew she took medication.
Did you see her doing that?
Yes.
What was the form of the medication that she took? Was it a liquid? Was it pills?
It was pills.
During the summer of 1989, did that change?
Yes.
Did you see your mother taking her medication during that summer, or did you notice that she wasn't?
No, she had stopped taking it.
And had, at the same time that you realized she had stopped taking the medication, did you see any increase in her very emotional states?
Yes.
Mr. Menendez, during the summer of 1989, were you being sexually molested by your father?
Yes.
And when did that begin? How old were you?
I was 6 years old.
Now, you have seen a series of photographs that we put up on the board. Can you remember whether or not the molestation began before or after your 6th birthday party?
I was right around then. I believe it was just after.
Excuse me?
I believe it was just after.
After. And where were you living at the time?
Muncie.
Mr. Menendez, do you recall seeing a photograph in this series of your body naked?
Yes.
Do you remember that photograph being taken?
I remember a lot of photographs being taken. I don't remember that specific one.
The types of photographs, well, your parents both took a lot of photographs of you and your brother, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember naked photographs being taken?
Yes.
And who would take the naked ones?
My dad.
But you don't remember that specific one being taken?
No.
Do you recall when it was that you first saw or shown that naked photograph of yourself?
Just before I got to court.
Was while you've been in jail?
Yes.
How long, from the time you were 6 when you say your father started to molest you, how long did that go on?
12 years.
And were there episodes of sexual activity with your father over that last summer?
Yes.
Over the course of the 12 years, did the type of sexual activity that your father engaged in with you vary and change?
Yes.
Were there patterns to the behavior so that there were actually different kinds of sexual incidents with your father?
Overall.
Yes.
And did you come over the years to give those different kinds of sexual incidents names?
Yes.
And would you tell us what were the names that you gave to those different types of incidents?
Knees.
Knees?
Knees.
K-N-E-E-S?
Yes.
That was one type?
Yes.
What was another type?
Nice sex. Nice sex.
Nice sex. What was another kind?
Rough sex.
Rough sex. And was there another kind still?
Yes.
And what name did you come to give that kind?
Just sex.
You called that sex.
Yes.
And was that you called sex some form of intercourse?
Yes.
When, before your father died, was the last incident of what you called sex?
In May
Of what year?
1989.
And when, before your father died, was the last incident of knees?
In August
Of what year?
1989.
And that last incident of knees took place in what location?
My bedroom.
The bedroom that Detective Zoller was just identifying photographs of?
Yes.
Over the course of those 12 years, between age 6 and age 18, where did most of the sexual incidents with your father take place?
In my bedroom.
Starting at which house?
In Muncie.
And did episodes of sexual activity between yourself and your father also take place in the next house you lived in on Mill Road?
Yes.
And did similar incidents occur when you lived in the house in Pennington on Lakeshore Drive?
Yes.
And were there incidents in the fancy house on Mountain Avenue in Princeton?
Yes.
And were there incidents in the rented house in Calabasas?
Yes.
And were there incidents in the big mansion in Beverly Hills?
Yes.
Can you just put this other picture up? Is this the, I'm just going to show it to you. Is this the naked picture of you that you were testifying about?
Yes.
Does it embarrass you, this picture?
Yes.
What exhibit number was that?
Your Honor, that one is 232. The summer of 1989, Mr. Menendez, what did you do for the bulk of that summer?
I played tennis.
And you played tennis.
Yes.
Did you play tennis at home or were you traveling?
I was traveling.
And you were traveling to what?
Tennis tournaments.
And were these tennis tournaments in different places?
Yeah, they were in San Francisco, they were in Kentucky and Michigan.
And was this series of tournaments part of the junior national competition that occurs every year?
Yes.
And what is the last place that the junior nationals is played every year?
In Kalamazoo, Michigan.
When did you start traveling to these tournaments that summer?
July.
And the first place was?
In San Francisco.
And did you stay in a hotel with your parents during that part of the tournament?
Yes.
And do you remember what town or area that hotel was in?
I believe it was in Burlingame.
Burlingame, California?
Yes.
Now let's turn to the last part of this travel in Kalamazoo. What month was the play in Kalamazoo? The tournament in Kalamazoo, the end of the Nationals.
It was in August.
Now, how were you doing that summer, tennis-wise, in the tournament?
In which tournament?
Well, let's start with, how'd you do in San Francisco?
I did pretty well in San Francisco.
And the next stop was Kentucky?
Yes.
What city?
Louisville?
Louisville, Kentucky?
Louisville.
How'd you do at Louisville?
I did great at Louisville.
And after you did great at Louisville, did you sense what your parents' expectations were for the next round?
Yes.
And what did you sense about their expectations for the next round?
They wanted me to win Kalamazoo.
And what does winning Kalamazoo mean?
Winning, it was called the National Tournament, and it was the biggest tournament of the year, every year. And when you won it, you got a berth into the U.S. Open.
But how many other tennis-playing teams were in that tournament? How many other kids were in it?
128. It was the top 128 kids in the country would compete in that tournament.
And going into the tournament, were those 128 already ranked based on their previous tennis play?
Yes.
And do you know what you were ranked going into Kalamazoo?
Not quite sure. I think I was ranked 44. I know that was my end-up ranking, somewhere around 40.
And when you say your parents expected you to win it, does that mean they expected you to go from 44 to 1?
Well, not necessarily go from 44 to 1 in the rankings, but win the tournament.
In other words, beat everybody and wind up the #1 player in that tournament?
Yes.
Now, there was some youngster ranked 1, wasn't there?
Yes.
And 2?
Yes.
And all the way, there's 43 people ranked higher than you.
Yes.
Did you feel it was, that you could do that? That you were going to win Kalamazoo?
No.
Why not?
Because I wasn't good enough to win Kalamazoo.
And did you say that to your parents? Now, don't expect me to win this. I'm not good enough.
No.
Why not?
Well, my dad and my mom wanted me to win Kalamazoo, so I told them I would play my hardest, and my dad said, no, you want to win it.
So you wouldn't say to him, Dad, that's not realistic?
No.
In fact, over the course of your entire life, did you feel that your parents had expectations for you?
Yes.
And did you ever feel those expectations were perhaps too high?
Yes.
And did you ever tell them, I can't do what you want me to do?
No, I don't remember saying that, and I wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Did you play hard at Kalamazoo?
Yes.
Did you train, in addition to the actual matches, were you on the tennis court playing and training in between?
In the morning and at night, before and after the match.
And was the weather particularly difficult during that tournament?
Yeah.
What was it like?
There was a heat wave going through, and there was a heat wave when I was playing in Kentucky, and then continued over when I was in Michigan. It was pretty hot.
Did that make it difficult for you to play in Michigan?
Yes, it made it difficult for everyone to play.
Had you been training hard and working hard all summer?
Yes.
What kind of physical shape did you feel you were in Kalamazoo?
By the time when I started the summer, I was in fantastic physical shape. But after having to play and train every day for, 6 or 8 hours a day throughout the summer, until I got to Kentucky, I was in good shape. But when I was in Kentucky, I almost passed out on the court because it was too hot, and I played like 9 or 10 matches in a period of like 5 days, and so I was exhausted by the time I got to Kalamazoo. So I wasn't in the shape I wanted to be in when I got there.